making a cigar. It's pretty easy, and first I want to make the ashes. So that's made out of royal icing, and I'm just making a real tiny batch. So I have a 1/4 cup here, and I'm going to get a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. And this is meringue powder. I will link it below. Yes, you could use egg whites if you want, but this is so much faster. I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of the meringue powder. Now, I'm measuring for video purposes, but if I wasn't filming this, I would have just added a little bit of sugar, added a little bit of meringue powder, and mixed it together. It doesn't have to be exact. And now I want to add some liquid, a little bit of water. This is just room temperature water, a 1/2 teaspoon at a time to get it to a mixable or a spreadable consistency. It's still a little dry, so I'm going to add another 1/2 teaspoon of water. All right, here I have a glass cutting board. It's textured on one side and smooth on this side, so I'm keeping the smooth side up, or if you could find a plate or something with the smooth side up. I have some black food coloring. This is just gel color. I'm just going to add a little drop of it. Not much, just 1 drop. And I don't want to mix it completely. I want there to be a little variation in the color. So I'm going to mix it till it looks a little gray. Good, and now I want to spread some on the board. So I don't even need to spread all of it, but I just want it to look gray like ashes, and I actually added a little too much black. So I'm going to try to just use the white. So we want it to look more gray. And spread it as thin as possible. And now I want to set this aside to dry until it's not shiny, and then I can make the ashes. So I'm going to set this aside and make the cigar. Now I want to make the cigar. So I have fondant here. I'm going to make a gold label. So I just have regular fondant that I dyed gold using gold gel color. I added some Tylose powder. I always add Tylose powder. It's Gumtex, it's CMC powder. It's all the same thing. You sprinkle a little bit onto the fondant, knead it in there, roll it out, let it sit, because you want the fondant to hold its shape. If it's too soft, it's difficult to work with. And then I have some brown fondant here, and this is still a little soft, so I want to add a little bit of Tylose powder. I had someone comment on one of my videos saying that it's annoying that I don't give measurements. So this is a 1/4 teaspoon that I have of Tylose powder here, and I don't even want to use the entire 1/4 teaspoon. So I'm just sprinkling a little bit on that. That was like 1/3 of a 1/4 teaspoon. I feel like it looks like I'm sprinkling a lot of Tylose powder on here, but it's not that much. So I'm just mixing that in. And with Tylose powder, it's really just, you eyeball it, and if it's too soft, then you add a little more. If it's too hard, you know for next time to add a little less. And now I want to let this just rest for about 5 minutes, just so the Tylose powder can start working. I measured on the cake board where the cigar is going to go, and I have 4.25 inches long that the cigar can be. Why did I say it like that? Cigar. Where the cigar can be. So I want to make the cigar 4.25, 4¼ inches long. Other tools that I'm going to need, I have a Dresden tool or something that kind of comes to a point so we can put a little detail in there. I will link this below, or something similar. And an X-Acto knife. I will link this one that I use below. And I have a wet paper towel that I can keep wiping the blade on, because the fondant does start to stick to the blade. So I'm going to knead this together a couple times. My hands are clean. Just start to roll this in a little log. So I'm rolling it in a ball first, and then starting to roll it out into a cigar shape. So I want to roll it out until it's thin enough. When you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're not putting your finger marks in here. So I'm kind of rolling back and forth, and I'm pulling my hands apart as I'm rolling it, just to try to get it all the same diameter. And obviously this is too long, and we're going to cut an end off. So I'm going to keep one end, because it's round like a cigar is at the end. I'm going to put 4.25 inches and then cut the end off here. Just kind of gently pushing down so I don't distort the shape. Good, so here's my cigar. And I just want this to set for a little bit. I want it to hold its shape. So right now it's kind of pliable and moldable. Before I add the details, I want it to hold its shape. I want it to be stiffer. So I'm gonna set this aside for about, I don't know, an hour or so, making sure it's straight and just letting it dry a little bit, and then I'll add the details. Leaving this fondant on here. This is the gold fondant. I rolled it out super, super thin because I'm going to cut the label out of it and wrap it around. So I'm just going to let this set aside for a little bit until I cut out the label, because I also want this fondant to hold its shape as well. All right, this has been sitting for about a half hour and it's holding its shape. So now I just want to add a little detail in it. And I'm going to take my Dresden tool. There is a pointier end to this and a flatter end. I want to use the pointier end, and I want to kind of do a spiral line the whole way up. So I'm going to start in the back where it's a little flat. This is where it's going to lay on the board, and I'm going to do it up on an angle, and I'm going to keep twisting this with this hand as I'm putting an impression in here. I don't know how to explain. Just look at it and make sure that you are doing it even. So I like to do it in little spurts, and I'm using the curved part of this, not the pointy part down. And I'm just putting it up on an angle, and I want to try to keep it evenly spaced apart. And then I'm going to end in the very back, so you're not going to see the start or the end. And this is not necessary. You don't have to do this. This is just adding a little more detail to it. And then I can go over it again if I want to deepen the line or just refine the lines and make them a little deeper or sharper. All right, so now I have the round end and I have the flat end. The flat end is going to get the ashes. Now I'm going to make the label. So I have the gold fondant here. I have this round Atico tip. It's number 809, and I have a bunch of these in different sizes, and what I did, I just picked it out and I put it up against it and thought this is a good size circle for my label. So I don't want to completely cut a circle out since I need to have like bands on either side. So I'm just going to lightly press this down and turn it just to make the imprint of the circle. I'm not pressing too hard. I don't want to cut it out. Perfect. And now I have this ribbon cutter, and I just want to make ribbons on either side to wrap around. This comes in, it just has a bunch of different pieces to it, so you can unscrew it. What I want to do, I want to put the disc with this extra piece down, have the small one in the middle, and then this disc with this extra piece up. So this is going to be a pretty thin ribbon. This is perfect. So you just have to mess around with it and see what size you want. And again, I'm not going to go the whole way through. I just want to make the impression so I know where to cut. So I'm going to bring it up to that circle that I made right and stop right before, because I'll know where to cut, and then continue on the other side and don't touch the circle. So it just gives you an outline where to cut. I have my wet paper towel, my X-Acto knife. So I'm just going to start at the circle and then cut down to the ribbons. So you want to make sure that these lines are straight going across. So it wouldn't look right if I started up here and then on this side I started down here. So you kind of want to make a straight line across, just so it's straight. I don't even know if I had to say that. And now I'm cutting from the top line, cutting the circle out and stopping at this top line here. And then I'm going to flip this over, it's a little easier. Again, start from the line, cut the circle, and stop at the line. And I always cut it a little longer than I have to. That way I can trim it to size. This is way longer than it needs to be. Perfect. And I just want to smooth out the cuts so everything is nice and pretty. All right, that just broke. Awesome. I'll glue it together. So I pressed down a little too hard. Not a big deal. Could happen to you, so I guess it's good that it happened. Now I want to paint it gold. I have this Rollcomb Super Gold. I get it at sugardelights.com. I already have a little bit in this bowl, so I'm not going to add any more. I won't need any more, but you could just sprinkle a tiny bit in here. And then I like to add lemon extract. Lemon extract evaporates really fast. So I'm just going to do a little bloop of extract in there and take my glove. This is a brush. Where'd I get glove from? And mix this around. And I have this on a paper towel. It's easier to paint on a paper towel and just paint the entire piece. Making sure that you get the edges. And since this evaporates really fast, you can put on another coat right away. All right, this part is not necessary, but if you want to add a little detail to the cigar, you can with some dust. I have some petal dust here in chocolate and dark chocolate. Unfortunately, Global Sugar Art went out of business, so I can try to find similar colors and link them below. And I just want to do a little variation. I like to take a little bit of color on the brush, tap it in the lid, and then tap it. And I'm just going to shade it in a little bit. So I'm going to do the entire thing with the lighter brown, the chocolate color, and then I'm going to go into the lines with the darker chocolate. And it's a very subtle difference, but I just like to dust fondant pieces. It just adds a little more visual interest, if you will. And now with the dark chocolate, I just want to get in these lines here. Again, it's not perfect. Might not even be able to tell a difference, but I know that I did it, so that's all that matters. So you could totally skip this part if you want. All right, very subtle difference. Now I want to stick this gold band to the cigar, and since this broke apart, you just got to be careful because the gold will transfer. So I'm going to get a little bit of water on the back, not too much, just enough to make it stick. Find the center of the cigar, and I'm going to come down about like an inch from the top and put the little circle on the top, and then we're going to wrap these parts around the side, and I'll cut the extra off in the back. So since there's gold on my hands, I want to wipe it off before I touch the cigar so I don't transfer all the gold onto the cigar. And just trying to continue this into a straight line on this side. Nice. I'm going to wrap it around to the back, and there's a lot of excess on here, so I'm just going to take an X-Acto knife and cut a little bit off of both sides so I could see what I'm doing. Oh my gosh, that was perfect. Cake gods are on my side. Just make it match in the back. And I just want to press this down so it's flush with the piece. Beautiful. Now let's add the ashes. Here is my royal icing that is dried. It is not shiny anymore, so that's when you know that it's dry. And again, I added a little too much black, so just be aware when you're making yours, just add less black. But I made it work because I didn't totally mix it, and I tried to use as much white as I could. So now what I want to do, take a knife or like a palette knife, and this part can get a little messy. Actually, I need a knife, something that has a sharp edge, and I'm going to start to scrape some of this off, and I'm going to create some ashes. So I like to have light and dark variations because ashes are not all the same color. So I want to try to scrape off some of it where it's lighter and some of it where it's darker. And you really don't need a lot. Like I used a lot for this. And I'm just trying to chop it up so it's pretty fine. Good, and get it into a little pile. Then I have some piping gel here and a little paintbrush, and get some piping gel on the paintbrush. And get this tip covered in the piping gel. And I'm putting a good coating on it. I don't want too thin of a coat because I really want these ashes to stick, and I'm going over the edge a little bit as well, the whole way around. And now, while this piping gel is still wet, just dipping it in. So having the tip down and then rolling the edges in to get all the ashes on the end of the cigar. And then you can clean it up a little bit. And here is your little fondant cigar. I'm going to get a little bit of piping gel under this and then stick it to the cake board. So there you go. I need to think of another way to start my outros. But anyway, well, there you go. There's how to make a cigar. Super simple, and it is quick and easy, and the ashes just look so real. They look so cool. I'll put the picture of the cake over here. She was pretty specific in the design that she wanted, and I just executed her design. There's the cigar down there on the cake board, and here's a couple other pictures of cakes that I did with cigars on them. So I do them quite often, and they're so easy, and I just wanted to show you how to do it. I think that's it. If you'd like to follow me on social media, you can. I'm on Insta, Facebook, and I have my website. Everything is listed in the description below as well. And if you want to stick around, you can watch these two videos next and hit subscribe and the bell if you haven't already. Please like this video if you liked it. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, it's cake. Have fun. I will see you on the next one. Bye.